What's up, guys? Welcome back to the weekly scraps. Man, we got some good updates, but first and foremost, I want to say shout out to the Berries, Berry and Love. Man, you guys had an amazing wedding. Thanks for the invite. Thanks for making me one of your best men, Dre. Shout out. Love you, bro. Wish you guys nothing but the best on this new journey in you guys' life. And Maya, you're the best also. Can't wait to see you guys again. See you guys in New York soon. Much love, and hope you guys having a great time finishing up your trip in Mexico. So we're back. Had a great wedding down in Cancun, Mexico. Got the fight announcements. Got to see all the commotions with everybody. My phone's blowing up as I'm on the plane flying home. And three big fights. We got January. I think we have Sean Strickland versus Dricus du Plessis. That's a big fight. And then February we have Topuria and Volkanovski. And then March. Somehow we went from December to March because, you know, champions, they turn around and they fight quickly. This is what I was told by the once contender, now champion, the people's champion, I guess. And the people's champion is saying that I guess they forced him into March or something like that. I don't want to put words in anybody's mouth, but Sean O'Malley versus Marlon Chito Vera. It's just a very interesting situation. But before we get into that, I want to get into some kind of early predictions. I do love these fights to start off the new year. Sean Strickland is just a madman. Guy is just super active. Even when he was a contender, super active, jumping into last minute fights, taking these short notices. And on top of that, just going out there and showing out and just doing the best that he could and getting the job done, eventually getting a title shot, beating one of the greatest to ever bless the octagon at 185 in Israel Adesanya. Now he's fighting another top contender, Dricus du Plessis, who was supposed to fight Adesanya that day, but he pulled out or turned down. Actually, let me say this. He turned down the opportunity because I guess he was still banged up and had some stuff that he wanted to heal up. Which is normal because guess what? We fight. You get hurt. You need the right amount of time to prepare. So he decides to not take the opportunity. Excuse me. He gives himself a more of a, you know, and it's funny because he got kind of a lot of heat from the fans, but then it kind of feels like it just blew over after Strickland jumped in. Like, yeah, maybe people were still chirping that du Plessis didn't take the fight, but Sean Strickland capitalized on the opportunity, and now he's the man walking around with the belt around his waist. With that being said, maybe there's something to be said about just ignoring the noise, and not just for me, just saying in general. I think there's a lesson here. Like, I know he got a little bit of a backlash from, I guess, the brass, the UFC brass, and then as well as the fans. But in hindsight, did he do the right thing? I guess we're going to find out in January when he steps in there and see how he looks, how he's prepared he is, and from all the interviews when he's talking about his preparation and if he made the right call or not. I'm one to err on the side of caution. You know your own body, you know your own limitations, so you know what you're physically capable of doing because not everyone is the same in terms of the mental aspect, the physical aspect, or have the same exact life that we're living. Du Plessis probably has so much going on, coming off a huge win over Robert Whittaker, the way that he did, and to want to jump right back in there, I understand that the man is just a man. He's probably got a ton of other stuff that he has to do as an everyday person like all of us. You know, he has other commitments and obligations. His life isn't just revolved around fighting every couple of months, you know? And when I say couple of months, I mean like every 2 or 3. That's a lot. You need some time to step back, smell the roses. We've seen that happen to Robert Whittaker. We now seen that happen with Israel Adesanya. Kind of sort of with Volkanovski. I guess with myself, the burnout effect is real. And when you have a crazy strength of schedule, you see this a little bit time and time again. Like even John Jones, he stepped away for 3 years. I know they said, they're saying, and he said it was more so like trying to bulk up. But I think in his last performance with Dominic Reyes kind of showed that he might have needed a little bit of a reset, taking a break and let his body heal up and just enjoy the sport, miss the sport again, come back reinvigorated. And I think that's kind of what happened when he came back and fought Cyril Gane. 3 years off is a long time. I'm not suggesting that to everybody, but I do suggest that sometimes when you're at the top of the game for so long, you need a bit of a break to give yourself a mental reset. But yeah, that's a whole nother conversation. Early predictions for that. Du Plessis, to me, I think he's a freaking savage, right? I did not give him a chance to beat Robert Whittaker. I just thought he was just big, strong guy who's just been getting by with these wins. And honestly, a win is a win. You're getting both your paychecks, so who cares, right? But if in terms of skill and the way he's looked in those performances, I just didn't really think he would get the job done against Robert Whittaker. But he shocked the hell out of me. He shocked the hell out of everyone. And the way he did it, and man, he got style points. I know he got his nose fixed. He had a little bit of a breathing problem with the cardio. Let's see if that holds up in this fight with Sean Strickland. So I'm giving you guys the goods right now. That's something that we have to keep an eye on. I think this would be that test, unless he can get a finish. But to finish Sean Strickland, it ain't the easiest thing to do. And with that being said, you got the other side, Sean Strickland, the guy who could march you down, push forward with that jab, who's gotten better with that strange Philly shell that's for boxing because you got the bigger gloves to parry, shoulder roll, parry, boom, 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 doing all this stuff here, deflection, and not having to worry about head kicks or anything like that. But Sean Strickland has made it work for MMA. Now, when you got that pressure, the way he just goes for it, his attitude, man, it's just always in your face, and it just stifles guys. Eventually, they just succumb to the pressure, and they crack. Or they just take a beating for 15 or 25 minutes. That's the pressure and effect of Sean Strickland. And with that being said, my early predictions, I think Sean is going to try to play the long game, which I think would be smart. I'm not saying go out there and stall the fight. I say don't be too over aggressive where Du Plessis has an opportunity to land one of those haymaker shots that he throws. Because let's be honest, he's not the most technical looking when he's throwing these punches. It kind of throws them in these weird, awkward angles, and I think that's the element of surprise when he throws them for these weird angles. You're not used to seeing it. And I think with that, Sean Strickland has to be careful of that, earn a side of caution a little bit, but still keep that walk him down pressure, do the man dance, stay in his face. And I think Sean should get his first title defense in January. Respect to Du Plessis. This is just what I'm thinking is going to happen. I think the pressure, man, he just does it to everybody. And we're going to see if Du Plessis' cardio is going to be able to hold up to someone walking him down who's not going to just quit unless you put him out, and a guy in Sean Strickland. Next up, we have Ilia Topuria taking on, we have Volkanovski taking on Topuria. Let me rephrase that. Volkanovski, the current champ, was supposed to defend in January, but opted to take a short notice, 11-day turnaround, or it's not even turnaround, 11-day fight after coming off of the surgery, sitting on the couch, not being able to really train like that, taking an opportunity, rolling the dice to fight Islam Makhachev. Did I mention 11 days notice? Crazy. Not the most ideal situation. When I said it on the last, not the last podcast, but a few podcasts ago before the fight, I was getting crucified saying that I didn't know what I was talking about. Don't compare my work ethic to everyone else's work ethic. And I'm just like, guys, it's not me comparing. It's just what I know fighters do when you have the downtime. You're training, but you're not really training full throttle. You're not running the hill sprints. You're not running the treadmill sprints. You're not burning your body out because you have a name in mind or a task at hand or a date. All those mental things, otherwise you're just running your body at a red line peak 24/7, 365, and you cannot do that. I don't care who you are. You could be David Goggins. You cannot redline like that all the time and stay in peak 80 to 90% shape where all you need is a week of training and then a week of a weight cut to be fully prepared for a 5-round fight against arguably one of the best guys currently in the sport today in Islam Makhachev. I'm just not buying it. I mean, not saying you can't get a puncher's chance and knock the guy out, but if we're talking about the long haul, we're talking about reflexes, we're talking about training for certain specific movements, we're talking about training the eyes and being able to see things and being sharp with your reaction times. You're not going to have all those things unless you have the training camps and you're doing all these drills and everything like that. It's a preparation for a reason. You're not going to go to the SATs and just say, yeah, I had a week to study and I'm going to do good. No, we take a couple of weeks of preparation. You got to make sure you do your homework and come in prepared. And that's what it is. It's the fight game. So for all the people out there, the armchair quarterbacks who swear they know better than the guys who are actually getting in there, I'm not even talking about me. They just think that they know better than everybody. It is the most bizarre thing. But I don't go to your job and tell you how to do your job because I would just be a fool trying to pretend I know what I'm talking about. You're going to look at me like, yo, bro, you've never done this, or you don't do this, or when's the last time you've ever done this? It just don't work. So please, respectfully, it's okay to have an opinion, but don't go bashing others for their opinions of something that they actually do. And not just do it, they do it at a high level, respectfully. With that being said, being that he got knocked out, it's still relatively quick of a turnaround. You got to train, you got to spar. When I got knocked out by Marlon Moraes, guys, I didn't spar until maybe 5 weeks before the fight. And when I sparred, I think I sparred only one time a week. And when I sparred, I also told my training partners, I want you guys try to take me out, try to land combinations, try to land the big head kicks like Brett Johns and do whatever, try to throw the big punches like Brett Johns going to do, because he's mostly a boxer, but try to throw everything at me, right? But just know, I'm going to be circling the whole time, and my objective is going to be wrestling, because when I go fight Brett Johns, I'm not going to be looking to exchange and test my chin to see. I needed a paycheck, guys. I needed the paycheck. This was 2018, coming off a loss. I went 2-2 that year in 2017. I barely sparred. I asked everyone questions. I wasn't sure where my chin was going to be at. And with that being said, and I had just gotten the knockout to, and it wasn't a flat out cold knockout like the Marlon Moraes knockout, but Zabit had knocked me out in training. Like still aware of everything that's going on, but I was done. It was like if it was a fight, it was a TKO, walk-off TKO, walk-off KO, whatever you want to call it. It was one of those things. He hit me, I hit the ground, and I just waved it off. I was like, bro, I'm done. I don't have any ego. I got no fight coming up. There's nothing for me to prove. I'm done. I'm good. That was in February, and then I got knocked out again, but this time iced by Marlon Moraes in December. So there's questions going into my fight, my comeback fight against Brett Johns, who's also undefeated, who just submitted Joe Soto in 30 seconds. There's a lot of doubts that's going on in my mind, right? I'm this guy who comes in, I lost twice, now I lost for a third time. I've been knocked out 2 times in a year. There's a lot of stuff wandering and lingering in my head, like maybe I need to go dust off my resume and get back to the physical education room and start subbing again to start making some money and getting familiar with people in case I need to land a full-time job or part-time. Because I might not be around the company much longer if this is the way my career is going to now take a downswing into. With that being said, I did the right things in training to get to the fight. People could say it was boring. I did what I need to do so I could get my paycheck. I won the fight, and I had a couple exchanges in there that made me feel better where I took some shots where I'm like, oh, maybe I can still take a punch and a kick. I just got to make sure that I'm not running face first into it, because that was just dumb, even though that was just dumb. So now with Volkanovski, I mean, when Islam planted his head against the cage and landed those knees over and landed his knee against the cage and just started hammering his head, that wasn't good. Head kick, landed on the ground, pretty much mounted and getting his head cracked over and over and over defensively. So when you see that, you see the quick turnaround. He was out of shape when that happened. He didn't have the best cardio. Usually when you're in better physical shape, you tend to take better, you tend to take damage a little bit better. Meaning the shot that could put you down, if you're in really good shape, sometimes that same exact shot, for whatever reason, you just might have a better time recovering from that when you're in better shape. I don't make the rules. This is just what I've been told. This is what I've seen. I mean, we've seen this with the TJ Cody Garbrandt fight. At the end of the first round, he made a brilliant recovery coming back and knocked out Cody Garbrandt in the second round, right? You could say the EPO and all that, but at the end of the day, EPO is supposed to help you with your cardio and conditioning and your endurance. So the fact that he was able to have that kind of shows that there is something to that. Being in better shape, it's like your neck muscles and everything, the oxygen to your brains, your heart, you just do better with the recovery overall. It makes this one tough for me because I wonder where the mental headspace of Volkanovski is going to be. He seemed to be talking about some type of mental issues. not having competition. I'm just hoping he's not sparring and taking more damage during this downtime while he gets ready to start gearing up for training. Hit the pads, but even right now, you got to give your brain a break. You definitely had a concussion. Any shot to the head is considered a concussive blow. So with that being said, I think he's got to make sure he's taking the right steps to recovery and try to get to as close to a 100% as he can, because Ilia Topuria can crack, dude. If there's any time for Topuria to get him, would have been in January. I would have been calling him out like, nah, we fighting in January still. Be a man of your word. This is what I'm just saying, to kind of let Volkanovski fight his ego a bit. To say, you know what, I'm going to still try to turn around for January. Put him in a worse situation, because now you can capitalize on that situation and take out one of the most winningest featherweights of all time. But now they got an extra month. How much difference is that going to make? It's hard to know. We're not in somebody's head. We don't know what they're going to, what they're thinking about. But I will say, I do think in February, he has more time to recover than jumping right back in there and trying to jump into a training camp. You don't want to get punched in the head. You probably have some symptoms linger around. We don't know. He hasn't talked about it, so I have no idea. At least I haven't heard it. And we have to know if he's being honest with the people or not, or himself. Like, when I got rattled, dude, I kept it a buck with everybody. I was like, nah, son, I'm still fucked up. The Zabit one fucked me up the most because I had vertigo, and I wasn't even out. The Marlon Moraes fight, I woke up the next day, I was like, let me just take 2 days off from drinking, and let me just see how I feel. And I was actually fine. I didn't get the spins that night. There was nothing. I was just saddened that I didn't get my second check, and I lost in less than 2 minutes. With that being said, the Zabit one, I had way worse symptoms. So he has to be honest with the symptoms and has to make sure he's not taking 1 step forward and 2 steps back in his recovery. So if he does make the walk for February, the way it sits right now, I do think we're going to see an upset. And I hate to say it because it makes it seem like I'm going against Volkanovski. I'm down Volkanovski, but I'm not. What I'm saying is, given the situation, I think now is the time for a hard hitter boxer who can actually grapple, just doesn't grapple, in Topuria, to get a guy like Volkanovski. He puts together better punching combinations. Volkanovski's more pop shot here, 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 and it's like an accumulative damage that he does. And then eventually he finds the finishing touches. But Topuria, when he hits you, he puts everything into those punches, into those body shots. And I think if Volkanovski is not the sharpest that he can be, which would have been before taking that Islam fight, I think if he had the time off and waited till January, he'd been fine. But now I'm liking Topuria's chances, and I do have to lean on the side of the contender for this one. Maybe we'll see more information as the fight gets closer. But for now, from the way that outing went with Islam and Volkanovski, I'm leaning towards Topuria to be NU in February. Last but not least, but before we get there, quick commercial break. AljoMainStoreroom.com. Go get you guys some new merch. All the stuff, crew neck. We got sweaters, we got hoodies, we got tank tops. And shout out Nerd Focus, nerdfocus.com. My partners in crime, well, my partners in energy. Check them out, nerdfocus.com or amazon.com, to see where they are selling the product near you. I'm telling you, you will not be disappointed. Nootropic energy drink. Very similar to what you guys always hear on Joe Rogan's Alpha Brain. Check these guys out. You guys will not be disappointed. Tell them I sent you. Okay. O'Malley versus Chito. Now, I'm sure there's a clip out there somewhere on O'Malley's podcast where he's calling me out, saying that this is when we had a little back and forth saying like, yo, it's science, bro. And I said, but it's mathematics. It's 2 different subjects. But then people were coming at me saying, science, math is science. I'm just like, okay, you guys know what I mean. It's 2 different subjects. We could have just cut the chase and stopped trying to be all technical and saying, that's not what I do. I fight, I study, I coach. This is what I do. If you want to talk about science and social studies and all that, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to listen. But during that episode of his podcast, he said, champions turn around all the time. It's not that hard. It's science. Just chill out and recover and you'll be good. Guys, if you grab my shin bone, I could put fingerprints, like you would see dents, peaks and valleys in my shins from my fight with Henry Cejudo. We went 5 rounds. We went 5 rounds. I was forced to turn around. We went 5 rounds. I was offered the fight to turn around. I'm not even going to say force. I was offered the fight to turn around. And long story short, I opted to take the fight based on everything that was presented in front of me in the conversations that we had. And it ended up being my biggest payday. So at the end of the day, I made a conscious decision that I wanted to step in there and take the opportunity. Because that's what it is. It's not like there's no gun to my head. It was an opportunity. And I was told if I didn't fight, I wouldn't be able to fight until either January, February, or March because everything else was booked up. Mind you guys, I remember I only wanted an extra month so that I could give my legs some time to heal so that I could train the right way instead of trying to train around it. I like to prepare myself as best as I can, and I like to think, given the circumstances, I still did a pretty damn good job of getting prepared for the O'Malley fight. But I do think mentally, although I was prepared, mentally I wasn't prepared to play the long game the way that I knew that I needed to play it. And I rushed. I rushed trying to get to the finish line and try to get out of there because I just could not wait for the fight to just be over. And unfortunately, it backfired on me. Sean capitalized, he won. But to my point, as we said, O'Malley said if all goes well in August, he would turn around and fight in December against Chito if Chito won. Chito won. He's saying that there was no opportunity for him to fight in December. Okay. He said there was no opportunity for him to fight in January or February. Now he's fighting in March. Now, I understand that he had some injuries, and it's just crazy how I just feel sometimes I'm slighted, not by everybody, but I do feel slighted sometimes by some of the fan base where they'll make one excuse for me, but then they'll use it to prop somebody else up or give them a pass. It's the most bizarre thing. When I'm banged up, it's not, dude, turn around and fight. You barely got touched in the Henry fight. I'm like, did you actually watch the fight? Did you see 5 rounds of the fight? Because it went 5 rounds. O'Malley didn't even go 2 rounds. He went a round where we barely did anything. It was just a bunch of leg kicking. And when I pushed him up against the cage, I landed a couple punches. He cracks me in round 2. The fight's pretty much over after 4 ground-and-pound shots. So if that's the long-waited list, that's the holdup. I don't even know the words for this. It's just when I see stuff like this, in hindsight, obviously it's 2020, right? When I see stuff like this, it does make me wish I went back in time and just gave a big FU to him and just said, you know what? See me when I'm ready on my terms, when I'm fully ready on my terms. And let's see what happens then. But I also did tell myself that at age 34, I want to get in as many fights as I can, as long as I'm not getting knocked out or anything like that. Get in as many fights as I can so that I can maximize my youth while I still have it. Because as we know, the clock is ticking. I got into the UFC at 24. I'm 34 now. So almost 10 years with the company. And with that being said, I saw the opportunity. I knew it was a tall task, but I said, F it. I'm going to go all in and roll the dice again, even though it's not really all in because I do get something out of it still, right? That was the sell. I got something out of it. My biggest payday of my entire career in one fight. Did I risk him losing to somebody else? Or maybe he would have pulled out too because of his rib. I don't know. But then you have the Umar Sandhagen fight. If Umar wins, he's fighting for a belt. And then if I let Umar potentially beat Sandhagen, but then he got hurt, right? So I'm thinking about all these things, and then Umar gets hurt. He's getting surgery. Sandhagen fights Rob Font. So I'm thinking about, like, well, what scenario am I looking at for January, February, March? I'm trying to play out the landscape, and then I just made my decision and say, you know what, let's roll the dice. I trust my team. I trust myself, and let's just see what happens. And sometimes that's how the game goes. That's how life goes. You take a chance. You're not going to always come up on top. Sometimes you come short, and that's okay. It's life. It's what life is all about. Hopefully you get more W's than you do L's, and that's just the way that the game goes. And sometimes it's your time, and sometimes it's not your time. So with that being said, I do like this fight. I'm just a little bit annoyed that it's in March. And not even annoyed. Let me say it's just comical. that it's in March. Because, champions do this all the time. It's science, bro. And now my man is taking off. From his fight with Jan, he took off just about 10 months to come back to fight me. I fought Henry Cejudo, 2-division champion, Olympic champion. Beat him. I get the quick turnaround to fight him in August. He wins. Now he's not fighting till March. And I think it's UFC 299. Now he's fighting Chito. Now, if he had fought Chito in December, guys, my take was that Chito was going to get the upset. Now that he has all this time to prepare again, because this is what you need. You need time to prepare. Now that he has all this time to prepare again, I do think I'm now leaning more so on the side of O'Malley to get the win. And again, I give credit where it's due. Sean does some really good things. He's crafty. Chito does some good things too, but he's a slow starter. I think if the fight was in December, it would have favored him a bit more because, again, I know Sean was talking about his rib coming into the fight. I was talking about my legs being banged up coming up to the fight and my bicep. But at the end of the day, I was still able to compete. I've competed like that a couple of times at this point. It's just whether or not I want to do it again and roll the dice again. Same thing with Sean. I'm sure he's had some other stuff going on into some of his other fights, but it's all about, this is what the fight game is. None of us are 100%. TJ Dillashaw, his shoulder injury. I had a torn labrum that came out the socket multiple times, and I fought, and I've won. Albeit not in the UFC, but I won 7 straight fights. Probably more if you're going to count my amateur fights. With a torn labrum. And then I finally had to get the surgery because it got to the point where it couldn't even stay in and for long enough for me to even get through a wrestling session. I had to get it done. TJ, I don't know how often it came out. He said like 20 times. I'm going to go by what he said. He said like 20 times. I've had that happen multiple times going into these other fights, and I won. So I'm not saying all things are created equal, all bodies are created equal, but injuries happen. And you have to know your body and know yourself or know what you're getting into. TJ had a looming title shot, may not ever get one if he pulls out of the fight. And then on top of that, he's older. And on top of that, he probably thought it was a great stylistic matchup, thinking that I really couldn't take him down and he was going to knock me out. He even said, he's like, I knocked out Cody Garbrandt twice with a bum shoulder. I thought I could have done the same to him. I'm using his words. These aren't my words. This is what he said. So the fact that he rolled the dice and he didn't win, sometimes that's how the game goes. O'Malley rolled the dice with tweaked ribs. He won. I rolled the dice with busted shins. I lost. That's the way the game goes. Nobody cares. I don't care about your excuses. It only matters when it comes to preparation from a competitor standpoint. At the end of the day, all I want to say is, did you win or did you lose, bro? That's it. And then once you go, yeah, but I'm like, no, I don't want to hear that. That's just me. That's the New Yorker in me. That's how the game goes. We play basketball. We play any sport. We play whatever it is. You get hit with that, that's it, done. You're done. Don't come back over here trying to talk some shit when you know you just got your ass whooped or you lost the game. At the end of the day, I don't care if I won by an inch or a mile. The name of the game is to win. And if I got my hand raised and you didn't, I won, you lost. Hold the L until next time. And with that being said, when it comes down to competitors, we got to look at the variables and see what might have been the reasoning for that loss or for that win. And how much stock can we put into that win when it comes to preparation, when we're looking at skill set and holes to prepare for. That's the game. So with this one, I think Chito is now going to find himself in a predicament where he has more time as well, but he needs to work on starting faster, getting volume out much sooner, whether that's in the back room, whether that's in the sparring room. He has to start faster if he's going to want to have a chance to, or should I say a better chance of beating O'Malley. That's just my personal opinion. I think Chito is really good. He's talented. He's crafty off of his back. He throws up elbows off of his back. He has submission threats. I think he's one of the more dangerous guys overall, especially with those kicks. He's not the best puncher, but with those kicks, he is deadly. But he starts too slow where he's giving up 1 or 2 rounds. And that could be the detriment where now O'Malley just needs to win 1 more round and skate to a finish or skate to a decision. And it just depends on Chito and how he shows up. But as it stands today, I'm making my early prediction. I think O'Malley's going to get the job done. And the only way I can see this being different is O'Malley's cardio is a little suspect to me from the Yan fight. I think it's a little suspect when he's huffing and puffing and halfway through round 2. And he hasn't even gone to a 4th or 5th round yet. What will he look like? We know with Chito, we know what we're going to get. With O'Malley, we don't know what we're going to get. And I think that's the big X factor that people need to be paying attention to. And again, I'm giving credit where credit is due. I'm giving you guys an unbiased take on how I truly feel when I'm breaking down these fights and I'm looking at these competitors when they're fighting other people and even when they're fighting myself. I think there's something to be said about the later rounds for Sean O'Malley. I think even if Chito does start slow, I do think the later the fight goes, the longer, if he can still stay disciplined and not feel like, oh, I'm behind, I need to catch up. If he can stay disciplined and not make a mistake by rushing in and letting Sean counter him beautifully and getting a finish, I think Chito can potentially get an upset. But stylistically, on paper right now, I think Sean is smart enough, does his homework, and I think he will be better prepared and better healed coming into the fight in March than he would have been if he were to turn around and fight in December. That's just my opinion. Other than that, I don't have anything else for you guys. We got 3 big fights this weekend from our team, Law MMA, Naseem Sadikov, Matt Frevola taking on Saint Denis, and I think on the main card in a huge pivotal matchup in the top 15 of that division. And of course, we got Dennis Bazookia taking on Jamal Emmers. Guys, big fights for Long Island, big fights for New York. Dennis from Staten Island, Matt Frevola from Huntington, Long Island, and Naseem Sadikov from Azerbaijan, also grew up in Russia, and then moved to Brooklyn, now living in Long Island. I can't wait to go out there and support these guys. I'll be in the back room cornering. See you guys soon. And of course, stay safe, stay blessed, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.